Welcome to the Motormouth YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And we do full-length car reviews each and every week, and halfway through each of those videos, we stop for a segment called Questions, Coffee, and Cars. You liked it, so we spun it off. We're at 146. How would I get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at Motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
Due to a seemingly high demand of the Toyota RAV4 and Camry, why can they not increase production of these vehicles for Canadian customers? USA seems to have an abundance of them. I know they are manufactured in the US. It's tough making a decision on purchasing Toyota due to its crazy wait times. The Camry is built in the US. Yes, you're right. The Toyota RAV4 hybrid is built in Canada, and then the plug-in hybrid comes from Japan.
Okay, so there's a bunch of things going on. One theory that I heard from Product Planner, not from Toyota, but from another brand, is that they look at what the value of the vehicle is in the local currency. So if there's a 30% difference in the cost of an American dollar versus a Canadian dollar, they're going to get more money per unit from the United States because the currency is much stronger. In Canada, they have cars to sell, but because the prices are, by the way, are not 30% less in Canada, but they discount for the dollar. So this is what he said. He said they're obviously pushing cars into the United States because they get more money. That's Toyota Corporation. Toyota Canada doesn't have a lot of influence, I don't think, over that. The good news is that they have a battery plant that's coming online in the United States that's going to be providing a lot of batteries, which we think is going to go into the only hybrid RAV4. And you can see Camry's also just hybrid now.
And also you have to remember the US is a larger market, so they are going to ship more inventory. And Toyota is not the only manufacturer. Even when Mazda launched the CX-50 hybrid, the PR team said we are going to get less in Canada initially, kind of that end of the year of 2024. The US is going to get a lot more than what we are getting. And then they said that they would ramp it up at the beginning of January of 2025, but you're still going to get more in the US. And that's the thing. I do hear from viewers who are from the US that there's inventory on the lot of RAV4 hybrids and plug-in hybrids. The wait time is just not as great as in Canada.
Less than a week now until Donald Trump is sworn into office, and he has said repeatedly that he's going to put 25% tariffs on Canadian goods coming into the United States. And the number one selling vehicle, take pickup trucks out of like the F-150 and all that out of the equation. The number one selling passenger car in the United States is RAV4. Number one selling passenger car in Canada outside of pickup trucks is the RAV4. So I would suspect that you're probably going to see more inventory available in the Canadian market to fulfill those back orders, because if there are Canadians that have been waiting for 6-8 months a year to get a RAV4 hybrid, there's going to be more available, I think, because Toyota's not going to ship them to the US.
And also, it's not as simple as just a vehicle being made in Canada or a vehicle being made in the US or Japan. There can be parts as well that are made in the US that are transported to Canada and vice versa. So there's a lot going on here, and really until the tariffs, if Trump does bring the tariffs in, we won't know for sure what the effect is 100%.
Okay, so the worry is that he's going to put a tariff on anything that crosses the border. If he puts a tariff on the finished good, the completed RAV4 that you want, the RAV4 hybrid that's going to go to the United States, that's something that's bad. But if you put a tariff on a part that crosses the border, and some of these parts go back and forth across the border many, many times in production of the car, that basically grinds everything to a halt. What I suspect happened in the weeks leading up to the inauguration, if he is going to do this in the first weeks of his administration, is probably there's not very many Canadian RAV4 hybrids being made right now.
No.
They're making as many American spec vehicles and shipping them across the border before next Monday. That's probably what's happening.
Look, there's a lot coming up when he takes office, and we'll know more about
Shortly.
those implications very soon. Good morning. You guys are always fantastic. Me and my partner are going to be in the market for an SUV, preferably mid-size. We're looking at parting ways with our 2017 Jetta SEL. Our top picks we mostly agree on are the CX-70, either the plug-in hybrid or the gas, CR-V hybrid, RDX, or the Passport. With fuel economy, space, and good power being on the list, is it worth waiting for the new Passport? The current gen boasts pretty lackluster economy. Is the new one supposed to be better? Well, the new one
It's not gonna be any better.
no, the new one has 285 horsepower. It has the same powertrain as the Honda Pilot, which offers lackluster
Very
fuel
lackluster.
economy. So it's not great. I don't see a change in that. I
Well,
did pull some notes. Go ahead, Zach.
I just wanted to say that I'm not a huge fan of the CX-90 or the CX-70 for drivability reasons. I don't think the transmission is fully baked, and I'm not sure how they can get around that unless they redesign the transmission. We'll have to wait and see. So for me personally, my opinion is CR-V hybrid is going to future-proof you. Great fuel economy, very roomy. It isn't a midsize. You're kind of mixing apples and oranges. It is compact, but it's one of the roomiest in the class. So if it's just two people, that's going to fulfill your needs. It doesn't have the same kind of luxury as some of the others, though.
I want to touch on that CX-70. We got the CX-90 back actually today, and I drove it back from where we picked the vehicle up in the press fleet. And what I found with the CX-90 transmission is it is better than when we reviewed it before. Here's some of my feedback. The auto start stop button, when you have it on, the transmission feels quite clunky in that stop and go. If you take it off and you put it in sport mode, the transmission still feels clunky to me. If you take it off and you put it in normal mode, it's quite smooth.
So what you're saying is turn the auto start stop off.
Yes.
And then drive it in normal mode.
Yes.
So what I would suggest, the sport mode would be best for not city driving, not stop driving.
Yes.
If you're driving in the open road or the countryside or a twisty road, probably the sport mode would be great. So that's the early feedback. We still have to drive it the rest of the
We
week.
still have to drive it the rest of the week and then put the review out. So
Okay,
stay
so
tuned for that.
what were the cars again?
Okay, so the Passport we mentioned is 285
it's horrible
horsepower.
fuel economy.
It does offer more second row legroom now than the previous model. I don't believe there'll be a difference in fuel economy. The RDX has 272 horsepower. It's a spacious, compact vehicle, just like the CR-V. Fuel economy, same thing, lackluster. CR-V hybrid, obviously you're going to get great fuel economy because it is a hybrid and it is one of the biggest in the class. CX-70 plug-in hybrid is a spacious 5-passenger vehicle, which I would say out of all of them probably feels the most luxurious in the non-luxury class. So what would you buy?
CR-V hybrid, I already said.
guess CR-V hybrid, yeah. And also the CR-V hybrid has the least amount of power, but it is electrified with a combined
Drivability is fine.
204 horsepower.
Drivability is fine.
And I would say that interior, out of all the ones that you chose, is probably the most boring out of
Most
them all.
yes.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach, Z95 days. You know, we
Wow.
both used to work at Z95.
That's where Andrea and I met.
That's where we met.
I
at
was in the
Z95.
lunchroom and Andrea was bent over a desk in a polka dot dress.
Oh my gosh. Can you believe he's saying that?
Well,
There was a lot of
put it this way.
action.
Listen, wait a second. That was my first glimpse of you, and I was hooked.
He was hooked. He spent a lot of time in the lunchroom. I would like to ask your opinion
Are you
on...
saying I'm fat?
I would like to ask your opinion on the last V8 Durango RT versus the 2025 Explorer ST Twin Turbo V6 for longevity. As a daily driver, family car, but luckily all of our driving is within Richmond, which is a suburb of Vancouver for those who don't know. I know the Durango is dated, but it's hard to find a rugged, aggressive style SUV with old school power.
Okay, so the ST is the 3-liter twin turbo Explorer.
That's right.
And the Durango is one of my favorites. But that's a 5.7 liter Hemi V8.
Yeah.
The fuel economy, rubbish. It's going to be terrible with the Hemi, especially if you're driving it in the city. But we find with these turbocharged engines, when you're driving in stop and go situations, they're also terrible in the city for fuel economy. I love the Durango. I was on your feed when you posted this, Andrea.
I know you were.
Okay, and I saw this question and I thought, ooh, Durango V8 Hemi. And I did some research and it's come back as the engine is good. The engine is good for the long haul. And the Durango has good quality scores, and it's one of the only mid-size SUVs, in my opinion, that actually handles really well. The interesting thing is both the Explorer and the Durango are rear-wheel bias all-wheel drive systems. The Durango was built on an old Mercedes platform that used to use for the GLE, and the Ford is a rear-wheel bias all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive platform.
So the Explorer gets some great updates, especially to the interior for 2025. The Durango, as you mentioned, is, you know, looking a little dated with the interior. But Zach's right, it still handles well. It doesn't feel like you're driving such a large vehicle, as same with the Explorer. The EPA numbers show that the Explorer, of course, has better fuel economy
Real world.
than the Durango. But, you know, you'd have to try that because it really depends how you drive a twin turbo or a turbocharged vehicle, whether it's a 4-cylinder or it's a V6, because if you're using those turbos, then a lot of times the fuel economy isn't great. As for power, the ST model has more power than the V8 Durango.
Yeah, and towing capacity, I'm not sure if you're towing, you're saying you're living in suburban Richmond, driving around, probably not towing, but Durango all day, I think it has 8,000 pounds with the V8 towing capacity, which is an absolute monster. The thing about the V8 is it's not working hard. You're just loafing along in it, and it also has what's called cylinder deactivation or cylinder management. It can switch off cylinders to help save fuel. So let's do a 3, 2, 1, Andrea. You ready?
Wait.
It's the Explorer ST with the twin turbo V6 or the V8 Hemi powered Durango. The thing is, the Durango is not sold anymore with the Hemi, I thought. So I'm not sure if there's one still sitting on the lot somewhere.
I don't know.
Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Explorer.
Durango. I knew that was the way.
Although I have a twist on the Explorer, I wouldn't get the ST model. I'd get the Explorer Platinum with the twin turbo.
Yeah, same engine.
Me and my wife are going to buy our first car. Wife loves only Sportage facelift model. So if the wife only loves it, we all know what that's all about, right, Zach?
Yeah, she's going to get that car. Why don't we just, okay, here's the answer. Your wife wants the Kia Sportage with the facelift? Dude, that's the car you're getting.
Well, hold on. Any idea when it's going to be launched in Canada? I have told my wife that we're going to book Sportage or Sportage only after your reply. It's coming in the spring.
Okay, and the one to get is the hybrid. If you could put your name on the list for the hybrid, so smooth and quiet and refined. Just go right past the gas. If it's more money for you, it will be. Spend the money. And Andrea, have they announced the pricing of it yet? They haven't. But Kia is very price disciplined with their cars, so hopefully it'll stay that way.
We just did a Tucson hybrid review, and there's a difference in pricing, and some of you chimed in and said, oh, well, that's because the facelift hasn't come for 2026. That's why it's less money. And yes, it is less money because of that, but I bet you, I'm going to predict it's still going to come in less than
Write
the
this
Tucson.
down on the calendar. Andrea predicts the Sportage will be cheaper
than the Tucson. Has Volkswagen lost their German feel over the years? Well, we own a GTI. I don't think so. That thing feels solid to me. Now, Zach might disagree.
Oh, I'm the one who wanted a GTI.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
So that car is kind of a special use case. So the GTI and the Golf R, because they're kind of like real holdovers from the old days. I would suggest the GLI and the Jetta not bad either. I think what you're getting at though is that Volkswagen has gone all in on SUVs, right? And you see that in their sales. The sales, I can't remember if it was Canada or the US, are up like 38%.
Canada had
Well, the U.S. also had monster sales.
They also increased, but not like Canada, but good sales.
Yes, and that's all because Volkswagen has gone all in on SUVs. They have the Atlas, one of the biggest in the midsize three-row SUV class. Then they have a new Tiguan that's coming sometime, I think it's this summer. That's going to be one of the bigger ones in that class. And Taos is one of the biggest in the subcompact class. And they're tuned and designed more for a North American buyer. So I understand what you're saying. If you want that German car, you're going to get a Golf R or a GTI.
Yeah, and those vehicles that Zach just mentioned, the steering is quite light in them. They're easy to drive and they're easy to maneuver, which is what people are looking for. I also found in the past with those specific SUVs that they were a bit cheap and cheerful when it came to the interior. There's a lot of hard plastic that was used, but Volkswagen has changed that now. They've stepped up after all of the complaints. We called it plastic fantastic on some of the models that we were in, and there's some really good improvements. Even the ID4 looks good. We drove the ID7 in France, and the interior was quite
really
beautiful.
Quite nice. I think what people are kind of ticked about, if you're Volkswagen fans, and I am, and now Andrea is, because
I've always liked Volkswagen.
there's so
what
many.
Are you talking about?
There's so many cars they have in Europe we just don't get.
Yeah.
Like we don't get the really cool Passat wagon, for example. We don't get the Passat anymore. We never got the T-Roc. There was all kinds of sort of fun variants. Like we never got a Golf R wagon when it was available. So yeah, I understand your lament.
You know which one I really miss is the Touareg. Remember the Touareg?
Andrea,
Fantastic.
we're sitting in the Touareg
I know.
cousin.
So we actually went back and forth between the Porsche Cayenne and the Touareg at the time. And we ended
Cayenne
up,
won.
yeah, we ended up buying the Cayenne. But boy, that was a really, really great vehicle. I wish they still made it.
They do in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Any news on when Mazda is going to update their infotainment screens and interior tech? Love the cars, but the tech and user interface seems way behind the times, although I do love the physical buttons. I was just in one this morning, and I was thinking to myself, I really love that dial at the center console. I find it easy to use. It's not the quickest system, I'll give you that. It can be slightly laggy. It took, a little time for me to pair my phone, whereas recently we were in the BMW X3 and it's just lightning fast, amazing. Even the Aviator, even the Ranger was really good.
Because they're all using new systems. And I absolutely agree with you. You got to remember, this is a small company. It's not a big company. So they have to strategically spend their money on things that they think are important. So obviously over the last few years, it was bringing out an EV. They brought out an EV that's come and gone. Now they've turned their attention to plug-in hybrids and their new platform and their inline six-cylinder. So that's the CX70 and CX90 with gas and plug-in hybrid. So they spent their money on that. So what is the next thing that they're going to spend their money on? Well, might be just a regular hybrid, their own EV, and hopefully new in-dash technology. But when you have small companies like this, they can't spend all of their money on the entire vehicle all at once. They have to be very strategic.
And it will be interesting when the CX-5 comes out, the all-new one, and a hybrid is supposed to be coming for that model with a Mazda powertrain for that vehicle. They're not going to go with the Toyota hybrid system and a Toyota engine. So it's going to be different from the CX-50 hybrid for sure. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. I do agree with you that the tech is laggy, but I actually like the system.
Yep.
I find it intuitive to use
they like the physical buttons.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's good.
So all they need to do is speed up the back end, I think.
I think so too.
All right, so we're all out of time, Andrea. How do you get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at Motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out on Instagram asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.